Historically, most wars end because one side wins and one side loses. And one of the reasons, in my view, why there is this endless rounds of war in this region is because the Israelis are never allowed to win, and Hamas, in this case, are always allowed to draw.
Welcome to Into the Forge, to our daily dose of truth. Jew hatred. It's where the extremes of both the political right and left always meet. And we have individuals like Piers Morgan of the UK, who is more and more vocal about his position against Israel and the Jewish people and supporting of the Palestinians, those that elected Hamas and encouraged and supported Hamas and even celebrated with Hamas the slaughter that happened on October 7th of 23. But praise God that we have such people like Douglas Murray who will just speak the truth. We got to give this a watch.
But do you not feel that something has to give here, that this has to get resolved somehow, and that the only way to do that is, as with all these situations, you have to eventually compromise in some way? And the problem for Netanyahu is that people think he is completely incapable of offering Hamas any compromise, and therefore there is no deal. So the families of the hostages still there, and hundreds of thousands of protesters in Israel on the street to Tel Aviv right now, they are of the firm belief that it's his own intractable position on this, which is not going to allow any kind of ceasefire to be achievable.
And it's obviously no surprise that it's the Israelis in Tel Aviv that are against Netanyahu and against what's happening in Gaza, because those in Tel Aviv, if you don't know, are extremely woke. They are virtually all liberals. Tel Aviv is the liberal capital of Israel. That Jerusalem is the eternal capital of Israel, yes, and always will be. But when it comes to liberalism and wokeism and everything that is the left, Tel Aviv, practically pure liberalism. So, of course, that's no shocker at all.
But there again, if I can say so, Piers, it's the same thing, which is the presumption that it's Netanyahu who is uncompromising. We end up with this, again, because Netanyahu is a democratically elected leader, and so it's assumed that some pressure can be brought to bear on him. In my view, it is not Netanyahu who's uncompromising. It's Hamas that's uncompromising. They could have handed back the hostages last October. They could have not done this. I mean, they could have tried to build a state since 2005 when Israel withdrew from the Gaza and handed the place over to them. Hamas could have used the billions of dollars and pounds and euros that British and European and American taxpayers gave them since 2006. They could have used those billions of dollars to build up Gaza. They could have made a booming, in the good sense of the term, Mediterranean paradise. They could have created wealth for their people. But you know what they did? They built down instead of upwards. They built a tunnel network bigger than the London Underground for all of those years, and they squirreled away the money, just like Yasser Arafat did before them, and they made themselves rich. Why was Ismail Haniyeh worth billions of dollars? Why does Khaled Mashal, why is he worth billions of dollars? Why are their children like princelings who live in apartment complexes in Doha? Because they took the money of Americans and Brits and Europeans and they took it for themselves and kept the people of Gaza in immiseration and poverty. There has been since 2005 a complete counterfactual of what could have happened. But the Hamas leadership didn't want that. They have said themselves they want to use Palestinian children and their lives in order to pressurize the world. These are fanatics.
And it's not just the leaders of Hamas. You have the leaders of the Palestinian Authority that are the exact same. Those that run the West Bank. They keep their people down and in poverty so that they will always be refugees. They will always be the victim so that they can play that victim card continuously. And there's enough stupid people on the left throughout the West that are dumb enough to believe it. They believe the lies. They believe all of the garbage that is coming out from the West Bank, from the Palestinian Authority, and of course from Gaza, from Hamas.
Want the death of their own citizens, in order to get world opinion turned against Israel. Again, how do you negotiate with that? The assumption always is in the West today, because we're so sort of fat and lazy in our expectation that peace is the norm, and that historically it's the norm. We're so full of our own expectations and presumptions that we always think that wars end by some kind of compromise and coming around the table, to use the cliche. They don't. Historically, most wars end because one side wins and one side loses. And one of the reasons, in my view, why there is this endless rounds of war in this region is because the Israelis are never allowed to win, and Hamas, in this case, are always allowed to draw. And I think that that is simply to set up the precursor for the next conflict. If Hamas come out of this with a fighting capability, then there will be another round of this war in a couple of years. So when David Lammy and others...
Guaranteed, by the way. Guaranteed. Because immediately following the October 7th massacre, you have these leaders of Hamas and many of the Palestinians with them that are crying out that if we have the ability to do another October 7th, we will. And again and again and again. We will do it as often as we need to, as many times as we need to, until from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is to call for the utter annihilation of the state of Israel and every Jew from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. That's what they want. Even from Hamas's own charter, they say that the day of judgment will not come until every Jew throughout all the world is dead. That's what they want. And you better believe they think the exact same way about Christians. Because when it comes to Jews and Christians, you either convert to Islam or you're dead. How do you compromise with that? There is no compromising with evil. We are not here to tolerate and to make peace with evil. We are here to destroy it.
Others say what we need to have is a peace deal. I'd say on what terms? Everybody wants peace except for Hamas and the fanatics. Everybody else wants peace. All of these people in the south, these kibbutzniks and the partygoers and others who were murdered on the 7th, all dreamed of peace with their Palestinian neighbors and brothers and sisters. Who stopped that peace being possible? Hamas, from 2005 and again to this very day.
100%. And I praise God that we do have people like Douglas Murray, that we have people like Tommy Robinson, that we have people like, praise God, we've got Donald Trump as president of the United States and J.D. Vance as vice president. And we've got Marco Rubio, and we got Pete Hegseth, we got Tulsi Gabbard. I praise God for all of these men and women that have the courage, that have the spine to recognize the enemy and to do something about it. You fight against the enemy. You never make peace with evil. Thank you for joining me here at Into the Forge for our daily dose of truth. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and until I see you next time, you just be sure to keep those fires burning and your swords sharp. God bless.